evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Eileen Riley, and I am president of the League of Women Voters of Putnam County. Well, that's never happened before. Thank you. Thank you very much. We are very happy to see so many interested voters present tonight. Candidate forums and debates are a very important part of our democratic process. Unfortunately, Senator Serino was unable to attend the forum this evening. In accordance with league guidelines, a candidate meeting with only one candidate physically present is an empty or open chair. Chair candidate meeting, is it open? Oh, I typed it twice. Open or empty chair candidate meetings will not be allowed at any level of league for any elected position. So, Senator Serino's opponent for Senator, Karen Smythe, is in the audience this evening, and there will be time after the close of our league candidate forum for the audience to greet and mingle with Ms. Smythe. Now, are there any elected officials who are not running for office here tonight? Oh, Ken. Ken Schmidt, town supervisor for the town of Carmel. Welcome, Ken. Thank you.
Mike Leonard, town council.
Could you stand up?
Mike Leonard, Phillipstown town council.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else that I missed? Oh, I'm sorry. Dave Morandi, mayor of the town of village of Cold Spring. Thank you. And somebody else. Somebody's pointing. Kenny Schmidt. I already did Kenny Schmidt. Okay, I've got everybody, right? But thank you all for being here. I just wanted to point out who our elected officials are in case you didn't recognize them. Okay, I want to thank our candidates for participating this evening and providing us the opportunity to listen to them speak about their experiences and what they plan to accomplish for their constituents should they be elected. We will hear their ideas, and we will be able to determine what qualifies them to be the best candidate for the office they currently hold or are seeking. As you enter the room tonight, you were handed index cards for you to write your questions for the candidates. We request that you specify which candidate office your questions are directed to. I mean, a few of them did not do that, and we'll figure it out the best we can. And if you're comfortable with this, include your name and your address or the town that you're from. You are reminded that your questions are to be relevant to the position sought by the candidate and are not to be of a personal nature. Raise your hand to have a league member in the room collect your completed card or to provide you with an additional card. All questions will be vetted by league members and forwarded to the moderator to be read. And this is so we can eliminate duplication and any questions that are of a personal nature. I want to point out that we use unique index cards. We do not accept questions from anybody who is not in the audience tonight. I would now like to introduce you to our moderator this evening, Mr. John Hessel. Mr. Hessel is a board member of the League of Women Voters of New Rochelle, one of the oldest leagues in the country, and is also an educator with over 3 decades of experience. Our moderator will now review the guidelines for tonight's debates. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. John Hessel. Yes? Pledge allegiance. Oh, John.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have one public service announcement before we get started. Somebody lost their handicaps for their car. Okay, I'll keep it up here. As possibly that's the fire department and then volunteer firemen are ready to go. Okay, so tonight we have 4 forums for the Putnam County candidates in the general election that will be held on Tuesday, November 6th. The 4 forums are going to be in this order. The Town of Kent Councilmen, these 2 gentlemen right here, Mr. Ruthven and Mr. Link. I get all these names. The next is the Legislative District number 1, and looks like we're going to try to start that at 7:30, maybe we'll get it a little bit earlier. And that is, the 2 candidates are Barbara, okay, thank you, Barbara Scuccimarra, and Nancy Montgomery. At 8 o'clock, we're going to do the Putnam County Executive, and that's MaryEllen Odell and Maureen FLeming. And at 8:30, hopefully, we'll be doing the New York State Assembly 95th District, and that's Sandra Galef and Lawrence Chiulli. Chiulli. Okay? So now, this is the way we're going to do this. First of all, coin flip is going to determine who goes first. We've already done that with these 2 gentlemen. These are the guidelines. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, followed by 5 questions. Question answers will be no longer than 1.5 minutes. Each candidate has the opportunity to have 2 rebuttals or extra time for 1 minute. Each candidate has a colored rebuttal card. Each card then gives them the 1 extra minute. This is only for use during the question and answer period, and they can only use the rebuttal cards twice. So twice during the forum, they get to add a minute. Following the question and answer period, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. Do you understand? Our timekeepers are over here. Eileen has gone over some of this before, but the League has made index cards available for questions asked by members of the audience. Questions must include your name and address. The questions are going to be vetted by the Putnam League to ensure legibility and avoid repetition. The question will be asked to stand or wave if possible when their question is asked, if you feel like it. Of course, questions may not be of a personal nature, must be pertinent to the office of candidate or seeking, and must be addressed to both candidates. Due to the number of candidates and the length of this forum, we may not be able to accommodate every question. We'll do our best to accommodate as many as possible. Video recording is prohibited. No personal or media videotaping is permitted. The League's unedited video will be shared on the League of Women Voters Putnam County Facebook page via YouTube. Hold all applause until the end of each segment. Okay, no applause in the middle of a forum. There will be time after the forum to meet and chat with your candidates. Now we're going to begin the first forum. And this is for the Town of Kent Councilmen. There are 2 candidates vying for the position of the Town of Kent Council. Gary Lake and Christopher Ruthven. Coins have been flipped, and we begin with 2 minutes for our opening statements. Timekeepers, are you ready? Gentlemen, are you ready?
Yes.
Mr. Ruthven, you begin.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to everybody in a public forum like this.
Want to use the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? So my name is Chris Ruthven, and I do appreciate being here tonight. It's very good to be able to speak in a public forum and get my message out of what I've been trying to go to door individually, and this is a lot bigger group, so I appreciate that. About myself, I've been a 20-year resident of the town of Kent. I moved here in 1998. I've been the Deputy Commissioner of Parks for 20 years, working for Putnam County. And I've been 17 years as a volunteer director on the Putnam County Soil and Water Conservation Board. I have a degree in natural resource conservation, and I'm running on a platform this year for improving the infrastructure in the town of Kent and cleaning up our lakes and our beaches, because we all know we've had a big issue with blue-green algae, and trying to bring some smart, sustainable business growth to the Route 52 corridor. I volunteer public service. I'm an honorary member of the Putnam County Joint Veterans Council. I'm a member of the Sons of the American Legion, and I support wholeheartedly my wife's volunteering as a leader of the Girl Scouts. I was over cooking a turkey dinner at Rock Hill Girl Scout Camp this past Saturday for all the girls spending the night over there. So I'd like to get a little bit into, if I got time here, into my platform. I think that my background in I see the sign. The clock is ticking. My background with Parks and Recreation with the county, it's a division of the Highway Department. I bring 20 years of experience, basically, of highways and facilities and parks experience into this position. The managerial background, the managing of the men, the purchasing background that's done through municipalities is a lot different than the normal people have to deal with. And I think that my experience...
Thank you, Mr. Ruthven. Mr. Link, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum debate here. We do appreciate that. As Chris said, getting the message out to those we can't get the message out through other means. So a little bit of an introduction about myself. I'm a resident of Putnam County for a little over 50 years, resident of Kent for about 22 years and change. Raised 3 children here, all through Carmel schools. All have gone to college, and one is on its way to graduating. And all that's left is the bills after that. My professional career is, I started out as a real estate appraiser with my own business. Became a broker with my own business, and then got into work for the town of Carmel. Mr. Schmidt is here. And I worked for the town of Carmel in the assessor's office for a period of time, then became the Kent assessor. I was the assessor from 2008 until 2015, the end of that. Then I got a job in the town of Greenburgh, where I'm at, as the deputy assessor. In the town of Greenburgh, we have about 30,000 parcels, and we oversee 10 school districts and 6 different villages. And I I oversee a staff of 9. So my getting to the platform, basically what Chris had said, there's a lot of big issues within Kent. And so some of the prime issues that we're probably going to talk about this evening will be Route 52 corridor, some commercial development that's needed, and of course our lakes that we deal with. So I'm hoping that we get to that, and I'm sure we will. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. The first question, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Link, and you just mentioned this. What are your goals for the Route 52 corridor, and how will you achieve them? You each have 1 minute to answer that.
Okay. With regard to Route 52 corridor, there are some things in place right now. We have a sewer system right now in place that's there to help with that commercial. There's so much that can go on. Right now we're seeing some development. We're seeing it with the Bob's Garage, and we're seeing it with the restaurant along the lake there that's becoming a restaurant. It's slowly coming back, and we're seeing a little bit of commercial growth, and it's my hope that we can push that forward. But we need to bring people to the table for a discussion. It's not just about talking about it, because we all can talk about it and we all know what we need to do. But it's about bringing the right people to the table. When I mean right people, I'm talking residents of the town of Kent, I'm talking about brokers, I'm talking about people that work for the town, planning, building, zoning, Chamber of Commerce. We need to bring all those factions to the table to discover the best way to go about.
He actually has a minute.
A minute and a half.
Yeah, okay.
It's a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. To go about to bring commercial into this town. I think it's getting better with regard to our being open to bring commercial. Our residential base pays too much. We have 39% of the town that's owned by the state and New York City. It diminishes growth within this town. So my hope is to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Link. Okay, a minute and a half, that was my decision. A minute and a half, Mr. Ruthven.
I didn't know we could stand up, that feels more comfortable.
You certainly may.
All right, so I agree with Gary, the Route 52 corridor really needs some work. But I think we have to keep in mind that we don't have a downtown in Kent. We're not going to be Cold Spring, we're not going to be Brewster, we're not going to be the Hamlet of Carmel. We have a long stretch all the way across our town with a mismatched hodgepodge of businesses, residential mixed in, and heavy traffic. And I think we really need to look at the overall appearance as we drive through town. There's a lot that can be said about being inviting for businesses to come into a town. We don't want to raise taxes. We need that commercial development. That's what's going to fund our infrastructure projects to help us do everything that we need to do to improve the lakes, to improve the roads. And we need to put that vision together. We need a plan, and it has to be from one end, from Ludingtonville all the way till we run into Carmel, to really see the whole vision and plan it up ahead of time. We need to be inviting. We need to have the restaurants. We need to have the little bistros. We need to have the cafes and the Catherine's little boutiques and stuff like that. But it's got to be a spot that invites people to be able to pull in, get out, jump into this store, stop by next, get a little coffee. You know, right now it's so spread out and so scattered, and mixed in between are these vacant, dilapidated properties. And without the vision in planning to do that, I don't see how we can bring it all together. So I do agree, we need a committee. We need to come up with that plan and have it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, would either of you gentlemen like to use your 1 minute rebuttals? Okay. Here's your next question, and this one's going to go to you, Mr. Ruthven, okay? And it's 1.5 minutes again for both of you. What in your experience or education will help with the dire condition of our lakes?
Well, I have done a lot of research into the blue-green algae issue, and there's no doubt in my mind that most of what's happening there is man-made. We are causing, and I'm going to use Lake Carmel as the prime example, but it goes with Palmer Lake, it goes with the other lakes. We are causing the atrophy of Lake Carmel to multiply and happen faster than it would do in a natural setting. And it's all due to the development that happened probably, I don't know, 50, 75 years ago. Everything heads downhill. Our septic systems, our runoff from our roads and our sewers, we're putting too much nitrogen, too much phosphorus, and everything has ended up down in the lakes. My education, my experience is that there's ways that we can use housekeeping techniques to stop it from happening and look at the long-term solutions to bring the lake back around to where it needs to be. I could sit here and talk for 2 hours, not an hour and a half, about this problem and the solutions that are out there. I do know that the governor gave us a $60 million grant for the state, and we ended up with 2 lakes here in the town of Kent, and we did some trial tests over the summer. We put peroxide in, we used some ultrasonic testing, and there was another thing close to copper sulfate. You know, none of it works, but none of it's a long-term solution either. They were trying to do a quick fix to make it, clean it up so it could be used, and we want to make that be used. But we got to look at what we can do right now, and we got to look what we got to do in long-term solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Link, same question.
Well, I totally agree as far as our lakes and what we need to do. And years ago, it actually started with my father-in-law's lake up in Lake Tibet, where it was a lot of overgrown, and all those things started to come in, invasive species and so on. And then it moved out to other lakes. I see that with my own lake on Chief Needham now, which has changed quite a bit since even 5 years ago. And so when we deal and talk about Lake Carmel, there's a couple of different solutions we might look towards, along with the funding from New York State, from the governor, and the tests that are going on as far as the green clean and the ultrasonic. We need to take a look at the results of those. I'm also thinking that we need to take a look at our sewer system. And so on, as far as maybe potentially tapping in. Getting back to the previous question, as far as sewer, I would also like to put on the table about taking a look at providing sewer down Towners Road as well. That's a commercial district, and I think that would help a lot of businesses there. I don't have an education in this field. My only education is what my wife tells me, who works for the Lake Carmel Park District. We have a thing that we talk about at 15 minutes a night, and that's about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Link. Before we go to the next question, there are a few seats available if you want to sit down. I see 3 right here. There's 1 in the front, so if anybody wants to sit down, they can. Okay. So,
I think I saw a rebuttal here.
Did you want a rebuttal? Okay, you have
Not a
1 minute.
rebuttal, I'm going to add on to it. So Gary's right. Sewer systems are, without a doubt, a big solution, but it's also a big tax burden. It needs to be researched. It needs to be funded. And it shouldn't be funded on the backs of the taxpayers of the town of Kent. It needs to be funded by the DEP, who's the major stakeholder. It's a dammed up branch of the middle branch of the Croton Reservoir. It ends up right down in Middle Branch Reservoir. And they have to be a major stakeholder along with the DEC. It just happens that the DEP came out recently with some new guidelines that are being passed around to look at septics. And for the first time, they're going to start, it looks like they're going to start allowing alternative septic systems, where in the past they've only allowed traditional septic systems, which you can imagine on the little postage card lots in Lake Carmel are hard to put in. So I'm really, really anxious and excited to see what we're going to be allowed to do with these new modern and alternative septic systems that the DEP is proposing to allow finally.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Link, would you like to use your rebuttal? Okay, so we have a question about the sewers. So I'm going to give you another opportunity for you both to answer about the sewers. So this one's going to start with you, Mr. Link. Do you feel, as a future town board member, that we should finish the proposed sewer district, and how would you accomplish this?
Well, I am a believer in the sewer district. I am not a believer in going down the phase that's uncompleted right now. As I stated before, I think maybe taking it down the Towners Road route might be the best way to go. Right now, currently, those people that are tapped into the sewer system pay an exorbitant amount of money just to be in that system. We also have right now, in the planning stages, Kent Manor, which is developing or potentially developing the condominiums on Nichols Road, who would also be tapping into that sewer system that would benefit and bring down the cost of that system. So we have to take a look at, like Chris said, we have to take a look at all of our alternatives with regard to that. But I think that our sewer system is something that is so vitally important when we think about development of commercial property, because you can do more with less. And when you take a look at Route 52, you see a lot of property that currently in its state is unbuildable because you need to put a well and septic on there. So in order to bring down that residential tax burden, we need to really, really take a look at the sewer district and the sewer system. So I am in favor of putting that on the table and seeing how far we can go with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Link. Mr. Ruthven, you have a minute and a half.
I'm fully in favor of a sewer system. There's no doubt the science proves that putting a sewer system around the lake communities cleans up the lake. Peach Lake down in southeast, bordering over into Westchester is a prime example. Just a few years ago, before they put a septic system in, people wouldn't even swim in the lake. Not only is the water clear now, but their property values have went up. And I think we should explore all options for sewer without putting the tax burden on the taxpayers. Our current sewer system is underused. There's very few businesses hooked up into it. I think there's room for expansion. Towners Road is a prime road to go down. There's businesses on there that can tie into it. I think we need to look at what the possibilities are of putting a connection somehow over around onto the east side, or another sewer system in on the east side, because it is the best solution, but we got to be able to pay for it without taking the burden onto the taxpayers. And I think that's where the DEP and the DEC got to step up, and we got to really work hard to get those kind of monies. The other thing about the sewer system is I don't know if this, and you know what, I don't want to say that, never mind. I'm not 100% sure what I was going to say there. I'm done, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Link, would you like to use one of your rebuttals? Okay. So this next question is about Main Street, and it's going to start with you, Mr. Ruthven. The town of Kent does not have a true Main Street area. How, as a town board member, would you work to improve or enhance the area? A minute and a half.
I kind of mentioned that earlier. I think we need a very good master plan. We need to figure out what we want our Main Street. And it's not a traditional Main Street. It'll never be a traditional Main Street. But, you know, sidewalks down through there, we need to clean it up. We need to take the vacant properties right now and clean them up so that it's appealing to bring the businesses in. And we need to get businesses that can work together, that work jointly. If you're going to go to a restaurant one night and you're going to stop by the little shop next door, then they all can mesh together. They need each other to survive. We've seen too many businesses in Kent pop up and go back out of business in a couple of years. And it's really because you got to get in your car to go to this business. Then you got to get in your car and you got to drive a couple more miles down the road to go to this business. And I think if we really plan it and put the infrastructure in, sidewalks would be a big thing. I know the town of Carmel got a sidewalk grant a couple of years ago, and I think that's what the town of Kent should be looking for also. To at least connect some sections together where people would be able to park in one area and connect together. In the overall look, I mean, we hear a lot about the aesthetics of driving down Route 52 and the appearance of what it looks like. And I think as part of the master plan, we have to see the vision of what we want the business district in the town of Kent to look like. You know, I keep rolling back in my mind when I get off the exit on 84 heading over into Connecticut, and you get off into there and everything is kind of that New Englandy nice look. It was all done through planning. I ran out of time again, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Link.
So we do have a master plan, and I do agree with Chris as far as taking a look at to see how much further we can take that as far as development in there. Kent lacks a sort of an identity in a way. It's kind of a thoroughfare in a way, and I think that the sidewalks are a good idea, and I think that street lights are a good idea, and I think that bringing in development like restaurants and like Catherine's Boutique and so on is a great idea. So those kind of ideas of development are perfect as far as restaurants and little shops and so on. The other thing that we deal with that's difficult is that the road. We have a 2-lane road that goes through there, and there's not a lot of room for expansion on either side, so we have to be mindful of that as well. So bringing that full circle, I think that, you know, we have our areas of industrial down at the end on 17, down exit 17. But I think this strip through here really needs to be cleaned up, like Chris said. We have some things that abandoned buildings and unoccupied buildings that need to be occupied again and brought into shape. So I think that those are all worthwhile ideas and projects.
Thank you, Mr. Link. Okay, this is actually our last question for this forum. It is quick, yes, we have a lot of forms today. Mr. Link, you take this question first. And some of this has been covered, but now you're going to get a little chance to expand a little bit more. How would you as a town board member work at improving our local infrastructure? Mr. Link.
Okay, so that has been alluded to before, and I think that it really does come down to getting the right people to the table and discussing how to go about this. We all have ideas on the way that it can be done and the way we might think it'd be to go forward, but I think it's important to bring in other elements to discuss how we might go about doing that. And like I said before, bringing in the residents from this town, forming a committee, and bringing in the Chamber of Commerce and bringing in real estate agents who know the area and know values in this area and know what they can do with this area, and bring everybody to the table to discuss the best way to go about this. And this is ideas, and it's taking those ideas and then bringing them forward. It's really, you know, when I talk to everybody, it's always the same subject. It's always that. And so it comes down to actually doing the work. And I think this is where it stops. Everybody loves to talk about it, but then it stops right there. And so, if I'm elected, I'm going to do the work for the town of Kent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ruthven, you have a minute and a half.
All right, infrastructure, roads. I mean, holy cow, I've been driving around up in Lake Carmel and I'm in shock that people are screaming their heads off up there. They're narrow, they're crumbling, they're falling apart, they're eroding. Our town highway partner's doing the best as can. What they went through this year with the tornado that came through, they spent 2.5 months doing nothing but clearing trees, but I see them getting out and starting to pave now. We're paving 5 miles of road a year in the town of Kent. 5 miles a year. It's going to be over 100 years before we get all our roads repaved. That's a lot. We need to focus. We need to put our resources there. The Kent Highway Department has been getting built up over the last couple of years, and I appreciate that. They got new equipment. They got the right stuff to do it. We're going to have to shift some funding somewhere to them and get these roads repaved. Get the culverts put underneath the roads. Get the catch basins rebuilt. Get them directed into the bioretention ponds so they're not going down into the lakes. These guys know how to do it. We just got to make sure they got the resources to get it done. And you know what, and it all ties back to the lakes. Infrastructure is the reason why our lakes are the way they are. We put the infrastructure back to the way it should be. We put the water going where it's got to go. The effluent coming out of the failing septics doesn't end up in the lakes because it's going in the catch basin. The catch basins are getting cleaned. They're getting sucked out. We're taking the particles out of there that are attaching to the phosphorus. It's all infrastructure based. And the residents need it. The residents don't need to be replacing the shocks and the tires on their cars all the time. These things are bad. Oh, I want to talk about Gordon Road.
Okay. Thank you. Just one moment. We have time for one more question, so we'll give these gentlemen the opportunity to answer one more question. Okay, and this is a bit of an open-ended question. And we're going to start with Mr. Ruthven. How would you achieve bipartisan cooperation?
Put me and Gary on the board. No, bipartisan cooperation. We're all neighbors. We're friends. We got the same friends. I'm meeting people that know Gary. I'm sure Gary's meeting people that know me. We can't let the national politics affect us as a community. We're all neighbors. We shop at the same stores. Our kids go to the same schools. We just got to knock it off. Over in Washington, up in Albany, let them play with the nonsense. It's not for us. At the end of the day, we all got to work together. We all got to come together, and we all got to live together. We're not going to change the rest of the world. We can change Kent, but we can only change Kent working together in unity.
Thank you. No applause, please. No applause, please. It's not the right time. Mr. Link?
So I couldn't agree with Chris more on that. I think we're at a point in this country that it's so divisive, it hurts. And I don't even watch the news anymore because of that. And I think that it's trickled down into our local elections and so on. And I see it on town boards that I look at. And I see such divisiveness because of party and because of position within that party and such extremes. It's really, really unnerving. And I don't believe in any of that. I agree with Chris, and I think that we should work together. This is not about me being a Democrat and Chris being a Republican. This is about getting a job done. And that's really what this comes down to. We both have common goals, as you heard here tonight. This is all common stuff. We're agreeing with each other left and right. We know it needs to get done. And that is what we're talking about. So I completely agree with Chris on this. And I think that we should stop the nonsense, get together, and work for a common goal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Link. Hold your applause, please. Okay. Now it's time for closing statements. Okay, and I believe we have 1 minute for closing statements. And Mr. Ruthven, you go first, I believe. And Mr.
I
Link,
think
you
Gary.
finish? We're going to switch it? Okay, so Mr. Link, you go first, and Mr. Ruthven, you finish.
So I just want to say briefly, because I have 1 minute, that I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I hopefully I was able to share a little bit within the time allowed about what I was about. And I want to just briefly say something about what this race and what elections aren't about and shouldn't be about. And I think they shouldn't be about the number of signs we have. I don't think they should be about party, which we discussed. Okay, I don't think they should be about the size of our signs. I don't believe in any of that. I think it really comes down to, and it's not about me. This is not about me. This is about you as Kent residents. This is about what you need and what you want. I'm just a representative here. I listen to you, and I take that and move that forward. This is not just all about Gary's ideas. This is about everybody here in this room. So thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Link. And Mr. Ruthven, you have the closing statement now.
Thank you. Well, I hope I got a little bit of my platform across. It is really, really hard to do in a minute and a half, and it's over in a heartbeat. But I agree with Gary. We all need to do this together. It's not about politics. It's not. I hope he's not making a knock at my big signs. My son, 8-year-old son's pretty proud of those things. We work on them together. But you know what? When push comes to shove, what I'm going to bring to the board is a practical experience of the day-to-day operations for the infrastructure. And I'm going to take my last 30 seconds and just address Gary. Gary, you've been a true gentleman. I've appreciated this run. Let's keep it the way it is. I've been out at 5:30 in the morning picking my sign up in the wind, and I've been picking yours up and sticking it right back in the ground next to mine. Thank you. And because I appreciate it. I appreciate that we're not bickering and fighting and being, you know, never mind. But it's good to run with the gentleman, and I hope when it's all over we can sit down, win, lose, draw, we can sit down and work together and come up with a solution. Because you're a good man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Likewise.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's give these gentlemen a round of applause.
Thank you.
So we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is unbelievable. There are restrooms over here, if you need them, back over here. If we have the two candidates, Scuccimarra and Montgomery, if I could have them both up here, I would appreciate that. Is everybody here? Is everybody here? Are you ladies ready? Great. Okay. So, this is the second forum tonight here at the Putnam County Candidates Debate. This is for County Legislature District number 1. We have two candidates vying for County Legislature District number 1. Barbara Scuccimarra and Nancy Montgomery. Nancy won the coin toss, and she is going to give us her opening statement. You have 2 minutes. Your timekeepers are ready. Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. I feel really grateful to be here. Lucky, in fact. I didn't know how many people were here at first until I stood up and turned around. Is this okay? You're waving to me. Okay. So I'm kind of just frozen here. So, yeah, instead of giving a stump speech, I guess, you know, it's like Lincoln would get up and stand on his stump, literally, and speak to his constituency. And I think most of you are here because you're here to support a candidate. You probably already made up your mind about who you're going to vote for. So I'm here to tell you what I have to offer, what I've done, and what I'm going to do. And at the end, I hope I've changed your mind. If you were not going to vote for me when you walked in here, maybe you'll vote for me when you walk out. And more importantly, hopefully you'll vote for Maureen FLeming, Karen Smythe, and Sandy Galef, because we have a wonderful ticket of women here that will serve Putnam County, and it's important for our democracy. And you know, we are Democrats, and I personally love democracy. I believe in local government. That's why I'm running. I have a long history of working and serving for the town of Phillipstown, and because of how I've served, I've been elected 3 times. And I'm here because I feel, you know, my passion for local government sees a need for more county resources to be brought back home to Phillipstown and to Putnam Valley. And that's why I'm running. And I feel that I can serve well. I have great ideas going forward in what I believe that Phillipstown and Putnam Valley need. We send a lot of money over to the county, millions in fact, and I would like to see more resources and services brought back to Phillipstown. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scuccimarra.
Good evening. Can you hear me now? Hear me now? Yes, it's quite a crowd, and I appreciate you all coming out today. And I'm humming. Thanks, Sandra. My thanks to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. It's been my pleasure to work for Phillipstown and Putnam Valley these last 6 years. And before that, I was on the town board for 4 years. I've raised my children. I've lived in Putnam all my life, grew up in Putnam Valley, moved to Phillipstown for the last 45 years, but don't count now. Then you'll figure out how old I am. Not good. But I raised my children. My son actually is a teacher in Carmel High School, and he loves his job. We love our community. We love the people in it, and we love helping each other. It's a wonderful place we all call home, Putnam. Many counties across New York State are facing tough challenges now, as we all know. I'm ready, willing, and able to meet those challenges head on. I want to protect, preserve, and enhance our community, and I feel I've been doing that for the last 6 years. My environmental ideas for our town, you know, the green infrastructure that we have, the parks, the wonderful place we live in, we must protect. I understand the issues. We have an aging population. Putnam has one of the highest aging populations in, you know, the surrounding counties. Personally, I believe it's ineffective to be combative and close-minded. As always, I will continue to listen, build consensus, and work with all the residents and officials to find real solutions to the problems facing our community today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the first question is for you, Ms. Scuccimarra, but of course you both answer. Okay, and these have been sent in by members of the audience. It has been said that Putnam County is way over-regulated when it comes to protecting water. Is this your position? How would you describe your current position on clean water regulations? And that question is starting with you, Ms. Scuccimarra, but it's for both.
Water. Water is something that we all take for granted. You go to the tap, you turn it on, you always expect it to be there, clean and nice to drink. That's not always the case around the world. In Putnam County, we do have, on the other side of the county, we have a lot of restrictions because we're in the watershed. And we service New York City, but we drink that water as well. And I believe in Putnam and in Phillipstown, we're very mindful of our water. And our stormwater management is very important. People, like we were talking about in the last session with Chris, we take for granted. We have to be careful of our septic systems. We have to be careful of using pesticides. We have to take a look at what we're doing to our land because that impacts our water. It's very important. You know, what would we do if we didn't have something at the tap that we opened up and it was clean? Our highway department is very diligent about what they're putting on the roads now. They're realizing that the salt is really impacting our waters. So that's another thing I want to work on. I want to cut down the use of salt. I know Fred Penna is doing that already. We've used 5% less salt this year than last year, or the last winter season. So there's a lot of things we can do, especially the pesticides. Be careful what you're putting on your lawn. I introduced a few years ago the Healthy Yard Project, where you make a pledge not to use pesticides.
You may finish that.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Montgomery, you have a minute and a half.
So the question is, do
Would
I
you like
feel
me to read it?
we are not over-regulated. We can't do enough to protect our water. All of Putnam County is very different from Phillipstown and Putnam Valley. We have a small portion in Phillipstown that is an MS4, which is New York City watershed. We have Mike Leonard here in the audience tonight, who he and I together worked for a great stormwater management plan that Barbara actually, when she was on the town board, was a big part of as well. We created when I got on the board, we adopted a comprehensive plan, and out of that came a brand new zoning code with the intention mostly of protecting our aquifer. We have an aquifer overlay protection district. We are currently in the process of updating our water study. Speaking of pesticides, the county has used pesticides right on our water supply for the village of Cold Spring. And again, when it was brought to their attention, it was going to happen in a second year, and we did what we could to stop that. So what I would do on a county level would be to be very mindful and meet with those departments that are using pesticides at our parks and in our areas, county-owned land. To, first of all, get into those departments, find out what are they using. I don't want to micromanage, but I think it's really important for me as your legislator to sit down with each department and figure out what they're doing in their practices to protect our water. So we don't regulate our water enough.
Thank you, Ms. Montgomery. Ms. Scuccimarra, I see you have requested a 1-minute rebuttal.
When the county, Fred Penna and the highway department was using that pesticides, I went right to him, sat down, and we discussed it, and it was stopped immediately. You know, the highway department does a great job, and they're very willing. I have a great relationship with Fred and John Tully, and as soon as I talked to him about that, it was stopped, and it wasn't going to happen again.
Thank you. Ms. Montgomery, would you like to use your vote? Okay, so here is the next question. And this one starts with you, Ms. Montgomery. In the wake of past weather-related disasters and the confusion surrounding the chain of command, what would you do to improve communication?
I would tell you that for the past 10 years since I've been on the town board, I have sent communications, phone calls, emails to the county to request communication prior to a storm. Hey guys, guess what? We're going to have Storm Juno coming up. Here's my email, phone number, here's the supervisors. So I have found that there is absolutely no communication in regard to preparation for storms. And let me just tell you what I'm offering, what I've done, and what I will do. I have extensive training in emergency preparedness. I've been an EMT. I've actually been a 911 dispatcher for a brief period of time. I went down and trained at Emmitsburg, Virginia at the FEMA Training Institute in National Recovery and Preparedness. We're required as elected officials to have a certain level of emergency management training. It's recommended by the state. I don't know if Ms. Scuccimarra or County Executive Odell have this training, but they are calling the shots for emergency management in town. And as far as I can see, as far as I know, there's been a severe lack of communication to the point where way back during Sandy, the town of Phillipstown created their own emergency operations center. You can't manage a storm in the Highlands, in the Hudson Highlands, from an office in Carmel. We need the Central Hudson rep to be placed in Phillipstown where they can manage the storm with us. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Scuccimarra, you have a minute and a half.
Thank you very much. You know, emergency services in Putnam do a wonderful job. Kenny Clare, and before that, We had a man that was just an amazing man. So Kenny has taken over the reins, and I believe he's doing a great job. When we had that storm, I was on the phone with the county executive and Kenny Clare almost every day, getting updates on what was going on. Fortunately, Phillipstown wasn't hit as badly as the rest of the county. We had Central Hudson, and really, that was a godsend. They weren't so fortunate on the other side. We did open an emergency shelter. It wasn't the one that my opponent wanted opened, but it took care of things. The Garrison Fire Department stepped up. They were there. I was there. We took care of people that were coming from Putnam Valley that couldn't have made it over to the other shelter because of the trees down. So, you know, talk about communications. I called Richard Shea once. I never heard from anybody else. I was always on the phone with this woman. She knew exactly what was going on the other side, and we took care of business.
Thank you. Would you like to use your 1 minute rebuttal? Go ahead,
I would
Ms.
like
Montgomery.
It goes back to, you know, incident command and our whole national incident management system that is set forth by FEMA, and it's a very simple protocols that we need to follow, you know, as a community to serve our citizens in the time of a disaster. Again, I go back to, I was never told there was an emergency operations center open during that storm after making several phone calls. I went back last night and checked emails from 2013 to, you know, follow up with this emergency preparedness idea that, you know, we need communication open, and it's just not. And the supervisor will attest to it, and everybody on the town board would agree. As your county legislator, that's one of my first priorities, is to make sure that everybody across the county is trained in emergency management, those people that are calling the shots. The training's available, it's free. We can send our folks down to Emmitsburg, Virginia and train. We can bring people from the county over to Phillipstown to train. Thank you.
Okay, here's the next question. This one is going to go to you, Ms. Scuccimarra. It goes to both of you, but you're going to start first. What will you do to bring more county services to Phillipstown?
What will I do? Well, right now the county is almost in completion for the senior center that I've worked so hard for all these years. This is something that I know there's a lot of controversy about, but please, we need this. The senior center that we had before was totally inadequate for our seniors, and like I said before, we have a growing, aging population. I'm one of them. So when this building, and I know the mayor has problems with this, when this building is completed and the seniors are not in residence, because they're usually out of there between 2 and 2:30, I want to bring county services over to the center. We've talked about this for a long time. The people from the west side do not want to travel the 20 miles over to get these services, so I want to bring these services here. I spoke at length today with Ann Ellsworth, and she's the head of the Women's Resource Center. And she's ecstatic about coming in and having a spot that she can come in and counsel people with domestic violence. I'm wearing this purple pin today. MaryEllen is wearing her purple dress because of the violence that's happening. And it happens in our community. It's right under our nose. These women or these men do not want to travel 20 miles when they're in crisis. I want to be able to open the doors and welcome in there for their help.
Thank you, Ms. Montgomery.
Well, when my 10 years on the town board, when I realized we were not going to get any services from the county, I developed my own services. So we developed exercise classes for our seniors. We started doing more luncheons for our seniors. We attempted to improve the nutrition at the current Friendship Center. So what I would do is, you know, I would meet with the towns on a regular basis. I would meet with the rec departments. I would meet with the emergency service chiefs and captains to say, what is it that you need? We have millions of dollars in our Bureau of Emergency Service budget, in our senior resource budget, and we've waited too long in Phillipstown and in Putnam Valley for these services. I've sat at these forums for the past 10 years and listened to the promise of services for seniors for Phillipstown. We have waited too long. We've had plenty of space available in Phillipstown for all these years. We still have space. I wrote a letter of intent when the Butterfield project first started saying, yes, we're interested in this. By no means was I ever against that. It's now costing us millions, and our seniors are, going to have a beautiful place to have lunch. Well, their needs go way beyond lunch, and we need to recognize that. My time on the ambulance corps, when I would go into the homes of seniors, see the roofs caving in, see that they didn't have heat. There's so much more that we need, and all of our resources have been thrown into Butterfield.
Thank you. Scuccimarra, you've requested, this is your last rebuttal.
Thank you very much. Oh, my last one? Can I use half of it? Listen, the senior center is just the start. We're going to work hard to bring services over there. When you say wasted money, we don't waste money on seniors. We have senior centers all over the county that we've spent a lot of money on. And honestly, it's worth every single penny. We have a wonderful man, Mike Cunningham, back there, who's leading the charge and bringing more and more services. I am working with Amber at the rec department. We're working together to bring as many things to these seniors as we can. And one more exciting thing that's happening, we're going to grow our own food for the senior centers. Tilly Foster has a garden, and it's always been a complaint that the food isn't good at these senior centers. We're going to grow our own.
Thank you, and now this is your last rebuttal.
I haven't seen one new service in Phillipstown provided by the county.
This is question number 4, and Ms. Montgomery, you're going to start this one, okay? And here's the question. What is your view on the sales tax sharing to the towns?
I know that the sales tax sharing issue is a very complicated issue. It involves the state, it involves very complex technical issues. And I know that when you look at all of the Putnam County towns, you would say, well, why would we share? This town's going to be left out if we share what Cold Spring and Phillipstown sends over to the county. Putnam Valley doesn't send that much in sales tax revenue over to the county. But it's not about that. It's about treating our towns individually. We're not lumping this whole county. We have to recognize that our towns have specific needs, and what Phillipstown needs, Putnam County's going to need, Putnam Valley's going to need something else, Carmel's going to need something else. We send, the last I checked, between sales tax and property tax, there was one figure that was $9 million a year over to Putnam County. There has to be a way to share that sales tax revenue, whether it be in more services, which we have not seen one new service provided to the people of Phillipstown or Putnam Valley in my 10 years on the board. In fact, I had to create my own because we weren't getting those services. So I'm in favor of sharing sales tax revenue. I'm in favor of creating more services based on what each town sends over.
Thank you, Ms. Scuccimarra.
Thank you. Well, first of all, those figures are way off. Sales tax for our area is less than $2 million. Not to say that that isn't substantial, it is. And I understand the argument. It sounds wonderful, share the sales tax. But what you don't understand is out of our budget, $159 million, 75% of that is mandates. And I've been talking about mandates from the very time I got elected. We need mandate relief. We can't go on like this. That doesn't leave us a lot of money for quality of life, for all the services that we do. We do sheriff's patrol, we fund our libraries. We don't charge back, and every other county does, for Board of Elections, which is like $75,000 for just our area. Community college, we pay 1/3 of that. The student pays 1/3 of that, the state pays 1/3 of it. That comes for Phillipstown, it's $367,000. So what do? We give you sales tax and then we have to charge back all these other services we give to you? How does that work? The best thing to do is bring services over, which I will do. You'll see it in the next year.
Thank you, Ms. Scuccimarra. Okay, so here's our next question, and it's a minute and a half, and it goes to you, Ms. Scuccimarra. Would you support the videotaping of Putnam County Legislative Committee meetings and not just the monthly meetings, and then put the video on cable or YouTube?
Of course. Why wouldn't I?
Okay. Okay, we'll have time for another question. And then that's to you also, Ms. Councilman.
I would also support that. I, often look for that online as I want to find out what's happening, over at the county. And I'm surprised that it's not offered. It would give our citizens a great opportunity to take a look at those issues that they're most interested in. It would give our citizens an opportunity to see how county government works, because they really don't know. I think it's important for everyone to understand, how it works, and sometimes we as elected officials don't even know how it works. For example, I attempted to get on an agenda for maybe the Physical Services Committee, and made several attempts. Emails went missing, didn't go through. Finally, I got on the agenda, and as an elected official, you would expect that I would be welcomed and introduced, but wasn't. In fact, there was a Putnam County employee who came up to me a couple of weeks after that and said, "I cannot believe the way you were treated at that meeting." So it would be a good opportunity to see to let our citizens see, how our current county government is working and what we can do to improve it.
Oh, I used it all.
You're out of rebuttal. This problem is being brief, right? Okay, so this is question number 6, and I think we're going to do a separate question.
I'm sorry.
This is question 6. We're going to do a separate question also. Okay, so, and this one is going to be to you, Ms. Montgomery. Assuming that you're become the County Legislative District number 1, or that you're on the County Legislative District number 1 already, what are the future plans for the county golf course and Miss Tilly's farm?
Well,
Tilly Foster Farm?
Ms. Chiulli?
I don't know. I haven't been there yet.
I can't answer that. I am not so familiar with the golf course or Tilly Foster. I know that a lot of money has gone into those two amenities for the county. I do know that, my experience and my record shows that when I need to figure something out, I do it, and I do it full force. There was a comment made when I was trying to resolve a code issue at our lovely Depot Theater Board, where we were going to get shut down because we needed a sprinkler system, and the code enforcement officer just handed me the entire 2007 code and said, "It's in here." I was, "Well, where's the code that says we need this?" And "It's in here." So I read the code. And it wasn't in there, and I went up to the state, appealed it, and the commission said, "She's like a dog after a bone," and I was kind of offended at that because it didn't seem very ladylike. But I am, when I need to figure something out, as I know Tilly Foster and the golf course are, I will figure it out.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Scuccimarra.
Okay, the Tilly Foster Farm and the golf course was something that came about before this administration. MaryEllen was kind of stuck with it when it came, and it was to preserve open space and protect the watershed. That was the reason it was acquired. But when this administration took over, they were in sad, sad shape, both of them. You wouldn't even want to go there. They were a mess. What's happened now is they have been turned around, and they're starting to be in the black. They're vital to the community. The golf course runs very smoothly and is making a profit. Tilly Foster is something that I find really a fantastic facility. Not only, we sat down in the beginning when we redid this and we asked for public comment, and people still wanted a farm. They wanted a destination. They wanted a place that they could come and already. But it's turned around. Bosie's is there. We have farm animals. It's a wonderful place to go. They're going to do some more educational things at the farm. Like I said before, we have a garden now. We've hired a farmer to come and make that even bigger. We're going to bring fresh produce to all the senior centers, except they don't like the kale. You know, we had buckets and buckets of kale this year, and they really weren't too cool on it. So we have to really work on that. But it's going to be stop.
Thank you, Ms. Scuccimarra. Okay, so this is going to be the last question of this forum, and it's going to start with you, Ms. Scuccimarra. Let's go into it. How will the county meet the gaps in coverage if the ACA is dismantled?
Does anybody know what that is?
Obamacare.
Affordable Care Act.
Affordable Care Act. Well, unfortunately, that is something I am not familiar with on what's going to happen there. I know we talked a lot about health care in the county, and we're taking care of our retirees. We have a supplemental insurance now that we're doing. We had a huge pension debt that we're paying off, and we paid off, actually. That's really, we were stuck with an $8 million pension debt in 2009, I believe, and we paid $8 million off. So that makes a big difference in our budget. So let's hope things go smoothly moving on. I'm sorry, I don't know more about that.
Okay, Ms. Montgomery.
How will the county fill the gap when they ditch the ACA?
If they ditch the ACA.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. We cannot ditch the ACA. We need health coverage. We need affordable health coverage. We are suffering as a community. People are spending most of their paycheck on health care. We have an aging population that is in desperate need of more services and more health care. We have an opioid epidemic that is literally killing our children. And what I've found, having direct experience with this, is that we can't put our kids in rehab because we can't afford it. So to do without health care, it's just, I'm not going to let it happen. And we need more beds in rehabs. We need longer stays for those afflicted with this addiction. So, you know, what are we going to do? We're going to look for affordable health coverage. You know, we're going to have to do it as a county, and it's just not going to happen. Can't.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now it's time for our closing statements. And Ms. Scuccimarra is going to go first. Thank you very much for being on board. And Ms. Scuccimarra, you're going to have 1 minute for a closing statement, and then you.
Oh boy. Well, thanks again for having us here tonight. This type of exchange is very important, as we know, and it doesn't happen often enough. You've heard things Nancy and I agree on, and some things we don't. As an elected official, it's my experience, you always achieve the greatest success by listening and working together. Take a hard look, not on a single issue. Ask yourself, who has demonstrated time and again the willingness to reach out and work with everyone? Which of us has delivered concrete results that have benefited all our residents? Time and again, the answer is clear, whether it's the senior center, the post office in Cold Spring, working collaboratively with passing the T21 and vaping law, or funding the first responders and SROs in our schools. Experience matters. Representing Phillipstown and Putnam Valley is personal for me, and results matter too. Ask yourself, who is more likely to be effective and bring services back to our community?
Thank you, Ms. Scuccimarra.
Thank you, and I hope you will continue to support me.
Thank you. Ms. Montgomery, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. It really has been such a pleasure to be here in this venue, supported by the League of Women Voters. You've been such a force for civility since your inception, and I'm so looking forward to hearing the rest of the candidates, and I appreciate you all coming out. I have to say I'm excited about all of the things that are proposed here. And I am sorry to say that I feel ignored as an elected official by the county, and I feel that my constituents feel ignored. And I'm, hoping that you vote for me so that our towns can be represented on a county level so that I can bring back resources to Phillipstown. You know, we have to bring the county to our towns. The towns are not going to go over to Carmel, and it's time for that.
Thank you. Okay, so that in just a few minutes, we'll start our next forum. Okay, and I've been asked by the Putnam League to remind you that there is refreshments in the back, and they have a basket there for the League of Women Voters Scholarship Fund. So if you'd like to take a cookie and leave a donation, that would just be really great for the scholarship fund. And also, if you just want to make a straight donation to support the league, that would be great also. Okay? They would really, really, really appreciate it. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the third forum of the night, and it's for the Putnam County Executive. We have a little hum there. Okay, we have a mic person over there to check that out.
I think it was just because it was on.
Okay, so we have two candidates vying for the Putnam County Executive, County Executive Odell and Ms. FLeming. Coins have been flipped, and Ms. FLeming won the coin toss and chose to defer, as they say.
She punted to me.
Yes.
I watch football.
So, County Executive Odell, you have the opening statement. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement whenever you're ready.
Okay, let's do it. My name is MaryEllen Odell. I am the county executive of this great county, Putnam County. County I was raised in, raised my kids here, had a small business here. I became county executive in the bottom of 2011. I did run in 2010. I call that the year that I put my head in the jaw of a lion. We didn't get there, but we did get there in 2011. Since that time, we've made some really great strides. Some of them you've heard about already, talking about our gateway destinations, those properties that were fallow and underrun, not doing anything for the people of Putnam County except for costing us money. We had those challenges. We had a lot of debt. In the 7 years that I've been the county executive, we've eliminated $40 million of debt. We've stayed under the tax cap. We've taken on the opioid crisis by suing Big Pharma. We do things big, we do them bold, we think outside of the box, but we're also really good at solving problems. And that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years, and that's what I'd like to continue to do for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. FLeming, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, I have to talk fast. Thank you to the league and thank you to everybody for coming out. This is really wonderful to have this much civic engagement in this race. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am the town supervisor of the town of Kent. I am in my 3rd term in that position. I'm also an attorney, and I have been a certified teacher holding certifications in biology and elementary ed because I worked for the city of New York in a number of capacities when I was first married to my wonderful husband of 31 years, Jim Mulvena, who is here with me tonight, who has been my rock. And when our children were young, I decided to leave my employment with the Department of Correction, where I ran the inmate disciplinary system for the entire city of New York, and stay home and raise my 3 kids. I went into teaching to mirror their schedules so that I could be an active participant in their lives. And then when my youngest was 5, and she's back there tonight, we moved to wonderful Putnam County. We chose this county. We haven't lived here all our lives, but we chose to live here because it's a great place to raise a family. It's got wonderful schools. Actually, Kent was just named one of the 20 safest cities in New York State. It's a great place to live. And so I became town supervisor. I ran in 2013 with a coalition of Republicans, conservatives. I actually was on the Democratic and conservative line supporting me because I thought we could do better. And we have. and I'm hoping to do better for Putnam County. I hope you come out and vote in November, and thank you. Is that mine?
I put it down, I'm sorry to get my
Okay.
water. And for some reason, when mine goes down, it does that. Oh, I'll just keep it.
Okay. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is going to be our first question, and we're going to open with Ms. FLeming, and you're going to have a minute and a half to answer this question, and then it'll go to County Executive Odell, and you'll also have a minute and a half. Do you have an infrastructure plan for the county? Do we need one? Ms. FLeming.
Well, I think it's clear that we need an infrastructure plan. And unfortunately, many of our roads are failing. And in this county, it's a major issue that we have actually kept some of our highway department employees working on other projects while our roads could have been repaired. We need, I mean, as was said in the Kent forum, you know, we need sewer and water, obviously, in this county. We need more of it. And I do believe that we need to work collaboratively with our towns, because unfortunately a lot of times what happens is our towns are like in the dark, and we need to reassess what our individual towns need and want and how they want to achieve those goals and work together as a county with our towns to achieve them. Did you hold on?
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Sure. Do you have an infrastructure plan for the county? Do we need one?
Yes, we do have an infrastructure plan for the county, and we've had one for several years. I'll cite the Southeast Danbury sewer connection that will sewer 3.5 miles of commercially zoned corridor, a much needed opportunity to enhance and create more stability for our economic development, create jobs, and lower property taxes. Infrastructure, sewer and water is extremely critical in Putnam County. As was mentioned earlier when we talked about watershed regulations, do we do enough to protect our waters? That's another good reason why we do have an infrastructure plan. You look at the Route 6 corridor in the town of Mahopac. You look at storage units, dry cleaners, nail salons. You don't see anything that really brings any value to the community or to the tax base. Sewering that corridor, and Supervisor Schmidt and I have been working on this for quite some time now, will be very helpful to create a more vital community. A hotel in Putnam County will only happen when we do take serious focus and attention to the infrastructure, which we have done in our administration to date.
Thank you. You each have the opportunity for a rebuttal. Okay, very good. Here's our next question, and this is going to start with you, County Executive Odell. At the monthly meetings of the Putnam County Legislature, comments, questions from the public are limited to topics on the agenda. Would you support changing this policy to allow comments and questions on any topic of interest to the public?
I was a legislator for 5 years in Putnam County. At that time, I represented 3 townships, Patterson, Carmel, and Kent. And we've had some very, very powerful, spirited moments in the legislature, the full legislative meetings. A lot of the work, the majority of the work is done in the committee meetings. That's when the community and the stakeholders have an opportunity to work and share ideas. To have a back and forth at a full committee meeting, we've never seen it be successful. I'm looking back at Richard Othmer, the Kent Highway Superintendent. Do you remember the night you opened up the meeting for the bike path advertising? It became an incredible blow up, and not a lot gets done. I'm a firm believer in process. I'm a firm believer in committee. Committees is where the work is done, and I do believe that if you open it up at the full legislative meetings, you're not really going to get what you were expecting to get, which is a change in the direction of what's already being decided. I support open transparency in government, but I don't think that change, which by the way, does not fall under the direction of the county executive. That would have to require a legislative policy change. If the legislative body decides to do that, I, of course, would support their agenda.
Thank you, thank you. Ms. Fleming?
I would absolutely, as county executive, encourage the legislature to open all meetings to public comment. When I first became supervisor in the town of Kent, we didn't televise our workshop sessions. And that's where a lot of the work does get done. That's where a lot of the discussion happens. And that's what people want to see. People don't want to turn on their TV and just see people voting yay or nay. What we did in the town of Kent was we combined our workshop sessions with our full meetings, and we allow comment. First of all, we televise both parts of the meeting, and we allow comment at every single agenda item and at the end of the meeting, and the comments do not have to be items that are on the agenda. We open it up so that we can hear what residents have to say. We can hear what their concerns are that aren't maybe part of our meeting, but are important for us as a board to hear. So certainly, although, as the county executive said, it would not be the purview of the county executive to make that happen, I would certainly encourage members of the legislature to think about doing that, because when we did it in Kent, people said to me, we did away with the time limit, and people said, you have to keep a time limit, otherwise people are going to take advantage. And I have to tell you, I believe if you treat people with respect, they behave accordingly. And we have never had a problem at our public hearings or our meetings opening to public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming.
If I may, I just want to make a clarification point to understand this. The question is to open up discussion for something that was not on the current evening agenda. Is that correct? Correct. And that's to my point. All you're doing is creating a discussion that doesn't have to do anything with the work that night. And the agendas that the legislative bodies have are very, very intense, and they're very detailed. We should stay focused on those issues and those items at that particular time, notwithstanding that there's always going to be another time to bring that new agenda item to the legislature. But again, it is the function of the legislature to make that decision.
Okay, thank you. So you have one more rebuttal. Okay, so question number 3, and we're beginning with you, Ms. Fleming. Okay. 1.5 minutes. Would you speak to what initiatives you plan to address aging in place?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, our senior centers, I've been talking to seniors around Putnam County, and there's been a lot of issues with people feeling that our senior centers right now and our senior functions are basically built around having lunches, you know, playing Wii, a few other things, and they're not really dealing with the issues that seniors are really concerned with. And one of the issues, obviously, is aging in place. We have a very, you know, our seniors, I mean, I don't know if you're a senior, but I'm probably considered a senior. You know, seniors go from
being... Well, tomorrow I'm one step closer, if that helps at all.
Being a senior goes from, you know, being young and vibrant and still interested in activities to people who really have more severe needs, that need more medical assistance, that need more programs. And we have to start to address these programs because we want to keep our seniors here. They're a very vibrant part of our community and a very important part of our community. We want them to be able to live in this county and thrive, and we don't want them to have to leave their homes. So they need assistance, and I would be happy to work with the senior community to make sure that that happens.
Thank you. County Executive?
Yes, thank you. I love this question. Years ago, Putnam County's Senior Resource Department was called the Office for the Aging. I thought that was really inappropriate. And so we built a task force of all of our seniors and all of our senior centers. And we said, are you comfortable with being referred to as being in the Office for the Aging? It sounded like you were in the waiting room for the next stop. And so we put this great group together of all the different senior centers, and we let them decide what they wanted to be referred to. So they came up with the term the Office for Senior Resources. I think that's a much smarter, much more telling way about how we feel about our seniors. Our seniors just don't come for lunch. If you go to one of our senior centers on a daily basis, you'll see that they do yoga, they do Tai Chi, they read, they use computers, they're learning how to use technology up to date, they're painting. Part of the reason we're expanding and redesigning the Carmel Senior Center is to give them a larger footprint for recreation. That's based on them telling us. We turned it around when we did the rebranding. We went to the seniors and said, you tell us what you would like to see. This is your center. These are your tax dollars at work. So we have redesigned our senior center in Carmel, which we're very proud will be open in the next few months, just as we designed the new Carolyn Leahy Pavilion, Butterfield Center Senior Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, would you like a rebuttal? Okay. Here's our next question, and this is going to begin with you, County Executive. What is your position on solar farms?
Oh, very exciting. Tilly Foster Farm, we talked about that earlier. We talked about what we're doing there at Tilly Foster. We have decided that the next phase for Tilly Foster will include solar energy. There are some solar panels up there existing, but they're not going to be part of our larger plan. There's 199 beautiful acres in Tilly Foster, many of it pasture land, which we'd like to eventually see in another phase for animal husbandry in cooperation with BOCES. But solar is definitely, we feel Tilly Foster is a perfect opportunity to expand on solar energy in Putnam County.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Fleming.
Well, I support the development of solar farms as well. This is an issue that actually is coming before the town of Kent right now. Our town code doesn't address solar farms, particularly it talks about utilities, and so our zoning board actually asked our town board to come up with a position and a code section regarding solar farms, because it had a couple of applications have come to the town. I obviously believe that solar is the future, and solar energy is very important, not only as a generator of, I don't mean to say generator, I guess, of economic development, but also we need to really start relying on clean energy, and I think solar certainly is preferable to wind for a lot of people, just in terms of environmental impact. So I am supporting moving forward in the town of Kent with solar, and I certainly would support moving forward in Putnam County as the Putnam County Executive with solar.
I think I finished so quick.
What's the matter?
I finished
Thank you.
before the time is-
Oh.
Okay,
Less is more.
this is question number 5, and we're going to start with you, Ms. Fleming. What would you do, well, this is kind of the same question. Okay. Why is it okay to raise taxes up to the tax cap and then take money out of the general fund to offset greater tax increase? Why is it okay to raise taxes up to the tax cap and then take money out of the general fund to offset a greater tax increase?
I don't think it is okay. I think that what we need to do, and what we have been able to do in the town of Kent, is really budget wisely. I think there's fat in government that needs to be trimmed. I think that's something that we found in the town of Kent when I came into office. My first year in office, the budget called for a 1.6% tax increase and reliance on general fund of $444,000 just to balance the budget. Well, we came in and you know, obviously it's not just the supervisor, it was collaborative. I mean, I worked with my town board. My town board was 100% behind, let's save people money, because people People are losing their homes. I mean, people's homes are being foreclosed. And what we did in the town of Kent was we bid out projects, we cut fat, and not only did we not use that $444,000 that was budgeted that first year, we added $422,000 to the general fund. It can be done, and with smart budgeting, with efficiencies such as bidding out contracts, cutting wasteful spending, we can do it for the county too, and that's what I'm hoping to do. Did you put up the stuff? No. I did.
Okay, you ready, County Executive?
Yes, I am. Let's talk about the tax cap. This is an Albany-imposed tax cap, which was supposed to level out the spending. I don't really feel that it was actually targeting the local town municipalities. It was really about the schools. I think that Albany was recognizing that the school taxes were just driving people right out of New York State or out of their communities. Now, every year, the tax cap, since I've been the county executive, we've met it every single year. You never know when that tax cap figure formula is coming to you until the summertime, which means we have to work on our budget every single day. As I said at my budget address, after I delivered that address, we were starting the 2020 budget the next day. Sometimes the cap is 0.6, sometimes it's 0.83, sometimes it's 2%. New York State gives you those guidelines, and I believe they give you those guidelines so that you can still run efficient services, still do your job as an elected official, and make sure that your constituents are getting the services they require. What we've been able to do in county government is pay off $40 million worth of debt and still be good partners with our townships. We have picked up $5 million worth of costs for the Board of Elections and the community college, as Legislator Scuccimarra noted earlier. We feel it's important to be able to be good partners to work together. The tax cap was given to us with the promise of mandate relief. To this day, 7 years later, we still have a tax cap, and we see no mandate relief. We only see mandate increases.
Thank you. Any rebuttals?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Yes, you have a minute.
Now you have one.
Now I have one. You know, in the county, not only are we meeting the tax cap every year, but and that may be because of mandates. I give that there are a lot of unfunded mandates.
200.
But we're also taking money from our funds. And we're not taking that money to save people. Well, we're not taking that money not to raise taxes. We're raising taxes and taking that money. And regarding the debt that was reduced by $40 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The review of the Putnam County Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the years 2011 to 2017 found that at the end of 2011, the county had long-term debt of $60,645,181. At the end of 2017, the county had long-term debt of $60,512,925. So that's a debt reduction of $135,256. During this same period, the county paid $13,517,000 in interest payments on the long-term debt.
Okay. All right.
Would you like to use your last
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you so much. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So my Commissioner of Finance is standing in the back, as well as many of my members of the administration. Fact, we eliminated $13 million worth of short-term debt. Fact, we paid off $8.5 million of pension debt to save the taxpayers $1 million, $775,000. We have reduced our long-term debt by 15%. We have aggressively been paying down all of our debts in this county, at the same time keeping our roads paved, keeping our school resource officers in our schools, funding our senior programs, supporting our veteran services, and developing and designing a plan for infrastructure economic development in this county.
Okay, thank you, thank you. 1 minute.
That's not fair. If you do one more question, her rebuttal goes out.
So we have time for one more question. So we're going to do one more question. And this one is going to start with you, County Executive Odell. You have a minute and a half.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
I feel like the mics went low.
Yeah, I don't feel like this is
No, you're better
Is that
now.
better? Yes. Okay, thank you.
We're fine. We're fine.
Would,
Thank you, Mark.
Turn it off again.
Would you, as County Executive, have a plan to share all sales tax revenues?
Is that me?
That's you.
Okay, because I am the county executive. Would I have a plan to share all sales tax revenues? Okay, that's not even possible for a discussion.
The question goes, share all sales tax received. Is probably a better way.
Yeah, okay, if I did that, we'd have to quadruple property taxes. Sales tax revenue is our offset. That's how we pay our bills. That's how we pay for our quality of life programs. That's how we put road patrol on. That's how we support our libraries. That's how we support our senior programs, our veterans programs. That's how we run the Bureau of Emergency Services. We could never waive sales tax unless we wanted to just levy property taxes to the full $159 million. That's our budget, proposed tentative budget this year.
Ms. Moureen.
Well, I mean, I've heard the presentations about how it's absolutely impossible to share sales tax. I certainly don't believe that the county would be able to disseminate all the sales tax. I don't think that was even the question. I think it's a matter of giving a portion back to the towns. And that's something that I think is worth examining. And I think it's also worth examining whether, if we cut some of the fat out of the budget, if we spend more wisely, will we have more of that revenue available to share? And I know many of the towns are interested. I've spoken to the supervisors of the other towns, and there has always been an interest in doing this. And I think that it's something that should be evaluated. I think we need to really examine the budget line by line, see where we can come up with some extra funding, and maybe give back to the towns and share some of the sales tax revenue with them.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now it's time for our closing statements, and you won the toss, Ms. Fleming, so you get to go with your closing statement. 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay.
So speak quickly.
1 minute. You know, I think that obviously 1 minute is very short, and in that minute, I want to just really ask you, go on my website, go on my Facebook page, read about my positions, read about what I have done as supervisor of the town of Kent, and see if I am the kind of collaborative leader. You know, I have 4 Republicans on my town board, and we get things done. And we get things done because it's not the D or the R. It's whether you're willing to work for your community, reach across the aisle, and do what's best for the people. So, anything that I said tonight, I'll put backup materials on my website so you can see where I got the numbers, so that you can see the reality here. And I absolutely hope that you come out on November 6th, exercise your right to vote. It's a hard-fought right, and I hope, obviously, you vote for me, but come out and vote no matter for whom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm County Executive. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I am so proud of this county. I am so proud of what we've been able to do in the last 7 years. I'm so proud of the fact that our veterans now know that they've been welcomed home. I'm so proud of the fact that our seniors on the western part of the county are actually going to get the services that they have been long underserved for. And yes, we will bring more services over there. Do not forget, we already do offer services over there. Our Sheriff's Patrol over there. Michael Bartolozzi, our county clerk officer, offers services over there. What we've been able to do in this county is to give us a financial stability that has never been there before. We've made Putnam County proud in New York State by me being the president of the New York State Association of Counties. I've also been the president of the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council. That's the first time Putnam County has been at the big table in all of its history of charter government. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve every single resident in this county, and I'm asking for your vote on November 6th so I can continue to do more good work for everyone. Thank you. God bless America. God bless Putnam County.
We're going to take another short break and we'll be starting the next forum. We want to start it right at 8:30 exactly, okay? Mr. Chiulli and Mrs. Galef are here. I'd like to see them up front. Okay, we got our questions. This is the final forum of the evening. This is for New York State Assembly, 95th District. We have two candidates vying for the New York State Assembly 95th District, Sandra Galef and Lawrence Chiulli. Okay, coins have been flipped, and we're going to start with the opening statement from Mr. Chiulli. You're going to have 2 minutes for your opening statement, and then I didn't go over this with you. You have 1.5 minutes for each question, and then 1 minute for your closings. Okay, so whenever you're ready, and your timekeepers are over there. Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Chiulli.
All right, so I'm going to stand for this. My name is Lawrence Chiulli, and I'm running for the 95th Assembly District. First thing I'd like to do is thank you, Sandy, for coming, and I know it's a long drive. Ossining, we have a pretty big district, Westchester and Putnam County. I'd also like to, before I go, is to wish my father a happy birthday today. He's here supporting me instead of out partying like you young guys do, right? So if I was half the father he is, I'd be the best father in the world. I really mean that. So now it's me. Why am I running? Well, the reason why I'm running is because I feel like there's a lot of hatred right now in politics, and I believe that the #1 message my campaign wants to get across is to stop the hatred and work together and unite as a people, because that's what we are. We are all the same people, and we all have the same desires. And right now everybody harps on party lines, Democrat, Republican, conservative, anything. At the end of the day, we all try to live here and live happy. And that's really what we're all going for, so that's why I'm running. The next thing I'd like to say is also, you know, I'm a young guy, and I want to connect the younger and older generations. I believe right now there's a gap between the two, and that leads to why we're not united. Another thing is that being in 2 counties, 14.1% of our people moved away. I don't want people to move away anymore. I want people to live here and stay here. And the favorite part of this whole campaign is meeting people, because the hardest thing to do is go up to somebody now. They're either in their faces in their phone, or they really don't want to be bothered. It's so hard to go and knock on people's doors. But I love to introduce myself. I love to get to know people. And I just was on Channel 12, and I said one thing, and brains are like fingerprints, and they're all different, and we need to get everybody's input on things. So that's my stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Chiulli. Okay. Ms. Galef, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have been your representative. You know, I work full-time in Albany on your behalf. I try to actually bring Albany's government back home by having town meetings and town forums on different issues and questions, and I also do my questionnaire, which so many of you send back, so I know what you're thinking, because I can't ask everybody all the time what they're thinking about different issues. And I think it's really important to be a representative that is there with the people and trying to go to as many meetings as possible. And also to get input when I go to the supermarket and when I'm pumping gas, people come up, you know, wherever you are, they want to talk about the issues, which is really, really important. But we are facing a really challenging time in Albany. And the challenging time has been created by the federal government. The federal government has really done us in this whole issue of our income taxes and our property taxes. And we're not going to really maybe know about this until we figure out our income tax for 2018 and to see what has really happened to us. But that's a major issue that we're working with. And we decoupled the New York State income tax from the federal income tax, so at least we haven't hit people in a double fashion. There was some questions before about health care, and yes, I am really worried about the health care issue, because if we lose the Affordable Care Act, we have millions and millions of New Yorkers that will not have a health plan, and whether we'll be able to put the money in to try to help that, that's one issue. But we also may have a problem with the whole Medicaid program, which also affects individuals that are getting health care. And so that is a problem. Education, major issue. If the federal government doesn't bring the money back to us in education, we're going to have more of a problem with our property tax.
Thank you, Ms. Galef. Okay. Any rebuttals? Any interest in a rebuttal? Okay. So here is, oh, that's the opening statement. Here's the first question. Sorry. I'm already ending the night. Okay. So you have a minute and a half for this question, and Ms. Galef, you're going to go first. The number one question that New Yorkers have for their legislators is, what are you going to do about our property taxes? The 2% cap helps, but does not help to lower our already very high school taxes. The STAR program is more helpful to seniors, but does not help the younger population.
Well, I think, you know, we do have high taxes in the state of New York. I've actually lived in the state of New York almost my whole life, and I think we've always had high taxes, but the cap has been terrific. And I know the county executive just mentioned that she thought it was for the schools, but it's for every level of government, and it has really lowered our increases. And it's usually related to the cost of living, so you can always promote where you're going to be going in the future. STAR program has been great for me. I'm not an Enhanced STAR. Enhanced STAR is great for seniors. STAR has been great for everyone in our community if you look at your tax bill. And you might also have gotten a check back recently if your communities fell within the tax cap. Then you got a check back. I mean, I got mine maybe 2 weeks ago. I think Putnam got them before. So that has really been very helpful. I am the chair of the Real Property Taxation Committee in the Assembly, and we're constantly working on ways to help with taxes. We had a terrible issue this year that came up. The governor wanted to deal with the Putnam state-owned land that I was able to get with Vinnie Libel to get it on the tax rolls, the land that we've set aside. But the governor wanted to keep it at the same minimum level and not have it rise. That would be a real problem for places like Phillipstown, Kent, Putnam Valley, and others. So, you know, we'll try to continue to do everything we can to help people with their tax burden as we go forward. I think combining some of our school districts would be something that would be very helpful.
Mr. Chiulli.
What's good about being a new candidate is I'm able to look at all the previous things and able to dissect them and get new input on things. With that said, for taxes, property tax, I believe, and everyone obviously believes, that's why we're getting this question, is that it's too high. And the question did refer to youth, because the STAR program, I believe, was put in place by Pataki originally. And then there was a few things that affected that. But I believe that everybody should have lower taxes, but it has to be sustainable. Everything has to be sustainable, and luckily for me, I'm going to be able to get new input and look at everybody's point of view on it. And that's what my whole goal of this whole campaign is. But I 100% agree that we need to get it sustainable for people to live here, because people are moving out of here hand over fist as much as they possibly can because of property tax and school tax and all the different taxes. So I need, and we need, to make sure that we make it so people want to live here and be able to live at home.
Thank you, Mr. Chiulli. Okay. Any rebuttals? Anybody rebuttal? Okay. So here's a question. Question number 2. And Mr. Chiulli, you're going to start this question. And we've had this question before. How are you going to achieve bipartisan cooperation?
Well, in my opening statement, I said that that's what I want. I mean, I want everybody to work together, because right now, depending on what party line you're on, you're not going to get the thing that you want to propose. How would I get it? Well, I got a congressional nomination from Nita Lowey, who is a Democrat. I have a letter of recommendation from old County Executive in Westchester County, Rob Astorino, current County Executive, George Labner, and New York State Senator Terrence Murphy. How would I get bipartisanship? Well, I think that, and hopefully, people that are in office are looking for the needs of the people, and they don't focus on party lines. So I would go there and hopefully be able to work with them. And that's all I could really ask for, is to be worked with and be able to propose things that are in betterment of the people and not in betterment of themselves. So hopefully, it's a two-way street for that question, actually, but I hope that they'd be able to work with me, because I'm 100% wanting to work with them. Democrat, Republican, Conservative, Independence, Reform, any party, doesn't matter.
Thank you. Ms. Galef?
I think bipartisanship obviously is so important. I used to be a League of Women Voter president, which is about bipartisanship. And I've conveyed that through my life as an elected official. Work with all town legislators, all town supervisors. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or what you are. I work with people. Some people call my office and say, I voted for you. It doesn't matter. And other people will say, I'm in a different party, and they will say, you might not help me. And that's not true. We all work together. As the real property tax chair in Albany, I have a committee that's made up of various legislators from different parts of the state, as well as different party lines. We work together with all of them. They bring a bill forward to my committee. Obviously, I have to let the bill come out of committee. I would work with my Republicans and Democratic colleagues to make the bills better so that we can really go forward with them. And, I'm a committee chair that is probably unusual that way, and I'm really glad that I am. And remember, I was a part of a coup making reforms up in Albany so that we could have a bipartisan and a more involved legislature when Sheldon Silver was the Speaker of the House. So I'm an independent soul. I work with all people, all parties to try to get the job done, and with my communities, and obviously through my town meetings where everybody comes. I have no idea who they are or what their parties are most of the time, and we all work together on issues.
Thank you, Ms. Galef. Mr. Chiulli, your 1 minute rebuttal. Go ahead.
Well, with bipartisanship, in this sense, to say that you'll work with everybody is really nice. But right now, especially as the way the country is going, the way that the state is going, saying that you're going to work for the people and work nicely and everything is good. But right now, what we need is to stay motivated on bettering our community. And being in the middle and not doing things to that, because you might lose a certain voter here, or you'll gain more voters here. At the end of the day, I'm hoping to be a trailblazer. I really want to better the community. And I think bipartisanship, like I said, is a two-way street, but I'm not going to remain in the middle. I think if you have a key issue, tell me it, and if it's right, we can fight for it.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is for you, Ms. Galef, and also but you're going to go first, okay? Do you support legislation that would create a database of deals for economic development projects?
A database of deals for economic, probably, you may be talking about the governor's regional economic councils, which function throughout the state. I go to their regional council, usually up in Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, and so on, with economic projects. So I think maybe the question is suggesting that everything should be up on the website, and I think some of the project, that's probably a governor's kind of thing, but I'm all for transparency, and I do have bills myself and many of my colleagues to make sure that the governor does give us more information. Sometimes that is a problem, but I think everybody wants to know what the economic projects are. I want to know who has given contributions from some of these businesses to elected officials, and then those elected officials are hiring out or contracting with those businesses, and that's when New Yorkers really aren't getting the right deal. And we've had some of those, and it goes through all levels of government, and I think we really have to work on that. So One of my campaign finance reforms is banning contributions if you do business with government. You just can't do that. And many localities have taken that on themselves and just said, we've got to have a line here between all that. And you could know who has contributed to campaigns by going up on the website. That was my bill I passed a number of years ago. You just go up on the New York State Board of Elections website and you know where we get our money from.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chiulli?
Basically, I think what this question is referring to is something that was actually proposed and I don't believe reached the floor. And basically what the question is saying is no longer are you pay to play, which means that you have these backdoor deals that people get payment from, the wrong people get the wrong money, the money lines the wrong people's pockets. That's what I believe the question is referring to on that. And the question was, do you support it? So of course I support it, because that's what corruption is, in definition, basically. Doing things for your own betterment instead of bettering the others. I don't believe that somebody should have a deal in place to basically line their pockets and then no one knows about it. For a quick example, one of the places in my district, Peekskill, there was a homeless shelter that is on the bottom by the river. And they're proposing to move it to a residential area. Now, my number one focus is that the homeless are people too, and we need to give them their specific help and specific needs. But also your property value will drop, and 6 a.m. is when they get released. 6 a.m. there's nowhere for them to go in a residential area. We need to put them in a spot that will make them better. But no one knew about it. We need to make sure people know.
Can I do a rebuttal?
Okay, thank you. You may do a rebuttal.
I may do a rebuttal.
Okay, I said pay to play, Lawrence, so that was the same thing. And I noticed that on your League of Women Voters form, I don't know whether there are any here, you had actually in your statement indicated that we should let people contribute more money to campaigns. I would go the other direction. And I would say less money to campaigns, and I would say that we need to do public financing campaigns, partial public financing. It still means that people can give $100, they get matched by their government, that they have a limit about what they get from somebody, so you're not getting huge amounts of money from anybody. The second thing, though, with all of that, is that candidates with public financing have to commit to a debate. And I'm just amazed that we don't have a Senate debate here tonight. And I don't know that we're going to have a Senate debate next week. And I don't think, you know, if you can't come out and state your position and tell the people where you are, and I applaud you for being here, Lawrence, because I think that that's terrific that you are, but others have not participated in it, and it's wrong.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Did you want to do another rebuttal?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Very good.
most definitely. So, oh man, I just lost my train.
That's your last one.
Oh yeah, so it's okay. With that said, right now, what I like is sometimes you can track the money. And there's another assembly race going on in the 94th district. And there are boatloads of money from the city being put into the opposition's campaign of the incumbent there. I think we should track the money because what does the city know about Putnam? What does the city know about Westchester? Why are these people donating money to a campaign from somewhere that doesn't have any reach there? So to go at what I said, I think it's very difficult to get your message out. So increasing the money to get signs, increasing the money for the people is definitely, so they understand who you are, definitely. But no, I don't believe in outside money coming into other campaigns, and right now that's one of the biggest effects. So I wonder exactly where that money and why it's coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Okay, very good. Okay, here's question number 4, and it starts with you, Mr. Chiulli. Are you aware of the proposed FCC ruling to limit municipalities' rights regarding the placement of 5G cell towers?
At the moment, I am not. But like I said, that's why I like to be a younger candidate and understand what's coming on. I'm motivated. So that's why on my card, my personal card, I put my phone number on there. Because if it's something that affects you directly, you could call me. And that's why I like to I want to break the mystique of public office. Right now, I mean, thank you for saying that you're happy I'm here, but why am I not here? I'm a representation of you at the end of the day. So definitely I'm going to do my homework on that, and then I'll be able to get a good stance on that. So like I said, at the end of the day, I need to break the mystique of public office, and you guys can call me at any time. Text me, call me, Snapchat or anything, Twitter. I know that that's the big move now. You got social media and all that, so I'm hoping that everybody's using it. But we have to stay abreast, and we have to make sure we know about things. So definitely I'm going to look at that 100% and be able to take a stance on it, and hopefully more people will be able to tell me more things.
Okay, thank you.
As you know, the FCC is federal regulation, so it's not regulations that the state does, but we really have a problem with cell towers. I remember, Kathy, you were supervisor at the time, that the issue was cell towers. And I remember traveling up here and just getting no telephone service. And I know in Phillipstown, or I guess it's more Phillipstown versus Cold Spring, the cell tower issue. I mean, we have them so many places. Nobody wants a cell tower. But everybody wants to be able to use all their phones and everything else. So we really have a problem with that. And I was talking with Bill, I don't know whether Bill is still here, Bill Hull, about the problems that we have actually in Putnam County, just transmission problems. And you know, industries are not going to come here unless they can get service, because nobody goes a place where they can't use their computers really well, they don't have great phone service, they can't use their cell phones, they don't have emergency lines. It's a real dilemma. So sometime we're going to have to start to say yes to some things that we really don't want to have. I still feel like every time I put a cell phone, and I use them all the time, to my ear, not when I'm driving, that I am probably putting so much stuff in my head. And then people think about it with a big tower, and there are places for towers and there are places not for towers, but I think we really have to get into it. I don't know where they're going to go on a federal level with all of that, but we really don't have state control over that I am aware of.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think this is going to be our last question, because we're almost on 9 o'clock, okay? And this one is going to be to you, Ms. Galef. What is your stance on term limits?
Well, obviously, I'm not a supporter of term limits. And I know a lot of people are. Let me just say that I remember talking to a woman who was a representative in Arizona. She wasn't a representative yet, but she led the cause to have term limits in Arizona. And they did it. They put term limits in. And I met her later on at a conference, and she said that was the worst thing that she did. She said, everybody, maybe they have 8 years, they're all ready to go to the next job. They're already thinking about politically where they're going to go. If they're interested in government, they want to be in government, and they're going to figure out a place to go. The other side of it is the staff, and the Assembly has a tremendous staff. And all those staff people become more powerful because they have the information. You know, sometimes there is something about having experience that gives you knowledge to be able to work on this kind of legislation. I got to tell you, in real property, it takes a lot of knowledge to figure out all of the equities and so on throughout our state and how we do the taxing. So it hasn't, you know, it sounds good, but in the New York State Assembly, I would say the majority of our legislators have only been there less than 10 years. We have term limits. I mean, people switch. You can term limit me out by voting me out, and that's what people need to do. They need to be involved in elected officials, understand where they come from. If you don't like us, just don't vote for us. Vote for somebody else. At least it gives an option that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Chiulli.
All right, so term limits are one of my #1 things in my campaign, because as you know, the Assembly runs every 2 years. If I were to get elected today, I would have a year of learning, because I bet you there's a big learning curve, especially after being in for 26 years. Somebody new was in there, so I'd have to learn a lot. So that's 1 year. That second year, if you don't campaign for a year, you're not getting reelected. So that's 2 years gone. If I get reelected, and that's a big if, remember, if I get elected that third year, if I've learned enough, I'd be able to do something. So I would propose 4-year terms, because now you can't harp on the fact, well, I was campaigning and it was only 2 years and I had to learn. No, 4 years, and you cut it off at 12, so you still have the continuity that I believe that you were trying to get at. So you still have the continuity. Now, here's another part of it. 12 years, you're done. But 4 years goes around, you could run again. But this time you're focusing on what you need to focus on now. I believe that if you're in for a long time, you're looking at it as a job. That scares me. Because sitting in the same spot as a job, you're focusing on yourself, especially for 2-year terms. So my number one thing is definitely term limits. And if I put in term limits, I'd be numbering my days. But I think the reason why New York State and a lot of places hated term limits is, well, I got elected, I'm harping on term limits, but this is a really nice chair, and I really like it, and I want to stay here, so no more term limits. I don't want to fight for it anymore. So that's what I think the biggest thing is there. I don't think people disagree with term limits because of term limits, but because they don't want to number their days.
Thank you, Mr. Chiulli. Okay, so now we have time for our closing statements, and you're going to have 1 minute for your closing statements. And Ms. Galef, you're going to go first, and then Mr. Chiulli, whenever you're ready.
Obviously, I really do think experience counts, and I've been there, gotten a lot of experience, but before I started, I did a lot of community service. I was on library boards, I did child care council, I worked with youth employment service programs. This is all after college and higher education and so on that I did this. I had a family, so I understood what it's like to, well, I was a teacher, what it's like to go to school myself, but also with my kids, what it was like to be in school. Those are experiences that come into play. In healthcare, every day I'm dealing with people that have healthcare issues, but I understand it from my own perspective. I've lost my husband. I understand that health issue. I dealt with my mom with nursing care and so on. I know those issues. And I think that really makes a difference when I am voting on things and I'm looking at bills. We have 15,000 bills that we have in Albany on all these different issues. And when I look at them, I think back to my experiences. I think back to the experiences of my constituents, those that call me, that I know about things, and I try to have that as part of the process. Thank you very much, and I hope you'll support me when you go out to vote on November 6th.
Thank you. Mr. Chiulli, you have your closing statement.
So at the end of the day, with me, I'm a genuine guy. In the Army National Guard as 11 Bravo, which is an infantryman. I'm an Eagle Scout, so I'm a community-based guy. And that's all I want, is to have my community be better and be great. That's all I want, and I know that's what you all want as well. But with that said, it's trying time in my district. The anticipated closure of Indian Point, right now, what made me stand up is one of those reasons. We don't have the sustainable energy. And I said, if you wanted it closed, good, have a plan. If you wanted to keep it open, good, have a plan. Right now, there is no plan, and no one fought for the people of that area. I think that attests to the 14.1 moving away. Because now, what am I going to do? And I believe that a condo bill was just passed, or made it past the Assembly, which will assess condos as single-family homes. And imagine being someone in a condo that lives in that district, where your taxes are anticipated to raise, and now they're anticipated again. So that's probably going to double.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chiulli.
Vote for me.
Okay, so that wraps up the candidate forum. You can applaud the candidates. Remember, it's time for you to be a public servant, so thank you for serving the community. Vote on November 6th, 2018, and I believe the League would like to make a final statement. So if you'd like to stay and listen for the League's final statement, please have a seat. We have a final statement from the League. We do have a statement from the League, please.
Give your attention to our League
We do
President
have a
for 1
statement
moment.
from the League. She's going to, the Vice
Please sit down, sir.
President is going to give you a...
So would everybody please sit down?
Please have a seat.
Thank you. I have your attention now. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Putnam County, I thank all the candidates here tonight for participating in our forum. We have been honored to have you. When you think about it, candidates running for public offices are applying for a job. Debates are live job interviews and the voters are hiring. Who would hire an employee without interviewing him or her first? That's why it's so important that candidates and the voters participate in debates and forums. Declining an opportunity to discuss the issues that matter most to voters is contrary to the public interest. Thank you to our moderator, John Hessel. Moderator is a key figure in making a forum succeed, and you did a really great job tonight. Thank you, Tony Aaron, for filming our event. Excuse me. And a shout out to our league members, the people who greeted you at the door and handed you an index card and explained how to fill it out, the floor managers who collected questions during the forum, the betters of questions, and very important, the timekeepers. Our forum could not exist without all of you. And thank you, audience, for turning out tonight. I know you have busy lives, and we're so glad you gave up this evening to come out and educate yourself on the candidates. November 6th is election day, so don't forget to vote. Karen Smythe, are you still in the room? Okay. We neglected to have you stand up when we introduced you. She is running against Sue Serino for senator in Putnam Valley, Phillipstown, and Kent. We want the audience to know what you look like. So our forum is concluded, and the audience is welcome to mingle with the candidates. Thank you all for coming.